Hi everyone. Uh,
Hi.
welcome to welcome to the conversation today. My name is Sebati, and I am a human resource professional. I've been working in human resources for the last 13 years. I'm also a coach, and I recently embarked on the caregiver coaching journey. Uh, It is my pleasure to have today's conversation with Ravi and Shobha. Ravi also is a human resource professional and Shobha works in IT. And together they are here to share about their caregiving journey, which was with Ravi's parents. So without further ado, I hand it over to Ravi and Shobha to briefly introduce themselves.
Thank you first to the caregiver this one because I got introduced to Bhavna, and thank you, Sebati, for giving us this opportunity. Um, I am from Hyderabad. I was born in the coastal part of AP, but I have grown up in Hyderabad. Mine is a very small family. I am the only kid for my parents, and we were doing very good, happy going, and all that till 2019. I got married in 2017, and as you mentioned, I was in HR and I was good in my career and all that. In 2019, we got to know first in the month of April that my dad is suffering from myelodysplastic syndrome, which is basically a cancer related to bone marrow. So we didn't have much idea. I started working or doing some research on that aspect, and that's when I got to know that it's a very serious disorder. Okay, it's a disorder wherein only 1 in a million would kind of get it. So initially, it was difficult for me to figure out. But the only advantage is I had a couple of my friends who are doctors, and I myself am little inclined towards science and all. So and of course, all credit to Google and a lot of research papers and all. I've realized that my dad is in little danger because he was on the high risk zone. But somewhere we were not sure how this journey is going to be because we ourselves both were settling in our marriage life and all that, family and everything. And I was in that part of my career wherein I had to take a plunge and move to a different location, so I couldn't take a call on that and all that. So I'll not go much into that because it will be a very long story. I don't want to eat up the time. So that's a brief about me. I will pass over to Shobha. She will just introduce herself, and then we will get back to questions, whatever you're going to ask. Because any which ways, I'll have to mention what all we have gone through when you ask us the questions.
Hi, my name is Shobha, and I've been raised in Hyderabad, and I was working in IT for the last 15 years, and we got married in 2017, like we mentioned. So it was a typical arranged marriage, and we started getting to know each other's family, and yeah, we just started our marriage life, and going fine. In 2019, like we mentioned, my father-in-law was diagnosed with MBS, and yeah, more about me. So, like he said, he's the only child. Mine is a very big family with a lot of cousins. My brother, my parents, my grandma, my aunts. It's a very close knit family. So I think that way it helped a lot in bringing everything together and trying to understand. And I think we work together wherever possible to actually work towards what needs to be done. So yeah, so that's about.
So, how did you become a caregiver after hearing this news? How was that journey?
Okay, I'll go first. So we didn't have any idea. So I was like with my parents since childhood. So I was more or less like taking care of them post their retirement and all that. So they were pretty healthy. They never had any kind of ailment. They were absolutely healthy. My dad was pretty healthy. He had no diabetes or any other ailment. He was a very healthy man. So I told you earlier, we were pretty shocked that he has such a rare disorder because initially we thought it can be cured and we can protect him and all that. But unfortunately, as time progressed, we realized that it's not possible. I rather realized very much that it's not possible, because my mother was in a denial, of course. She was of the opinion that, he will get out of it and all that. But I somehow deep in my heart, I know that it's going, the end result is going to be a little tough for us to take. So no, we were not prepared, frankly speaking. We were not prepared. So COVID was a kind of curse for quite a lot of people. If you ask me, frankly, it was blessing in disguise, because initial days, I was in one job, then I couldn't relocate to Pune because I was to move to Pune and I couldn't relocate. So then I had to look for another job. And I moved into another job which is based at Hyderabad, but it didn't have any kind of travel, or it didn't have any that work pressure of traveling and all that. Why COVID is a blessing? Because that triggered the work from home option, because my earlier organization had work from home or work from anywhere, but my new organization was into manufacturing setup, so we had to go to the plant by default. So, and the most advantageous part was, because it was COVID and work from home, luckily Shobha also could get into that work from home option. So that gave us a bandwidth to, stay at home, take him to hospital, take care of him and all that. That was the kind of thing. But yeah, the flip side is, because of COVID, no one was there for us both to support. We couldn't call up on any relative or their family or our family, because we were more concerned about them also, along with our parents. Like, if somebody comes and if they get contacted with COVID, then it's going to be difficult and all that. So we were trying to learn things during the journey. Frankly speaking, we had no clue. For example, the disease demanded a lot of support from the blood transfusions, platelet transfusions, because it's a bone marrow cancer. His blood counts would vary every week. They used to go zero, very low at times. The hemoglobin count was 4, 3, and we had to transfuse blood so that he is up. And platelets need to be transfused, because platelets used to go up to 10,000, and it was very difficult. So we both had to build a network for understanding who can help us in donating blood and platelets. We have connected with a lot of organizations, NGOs who can help us with. So I wouldn't say that, they say, right, there's a ray of hope everywhere. You will find light if it's completely dark. So though I went through a bad patch, I was so lucky that there were people who used to come, very old people, very young people, who used to come to donate blood to my father, platelets for my father, from long distance to Apollo. And, me and Shobha used to manage by, giving them support, providing them, because they used to come all the way for us. So we used to help them with transport, providing them with lunch, breakfast if they come for donation and all that, and managing hospitals, managing doctors, managing medicines. All this was I used to do, but doing something under stress is completely different from doing something which you do routinely for your parents. Someone is not ill, but you need to take care of them, is different from someone is very terribly ill and you'll have to, support them. It's completely a different ballgame.
Shobha, would you like to add anything else in this journey?
So what I would like to say is, becoming caregiver is a process that we evolved into. So I think more than me, for Ravi, it's been very difficult, because it's emotionally, it is, you're in denial of the fact, and nobody would expect, right, that somebody in the family would get something like this. You always imagine that everything is going to be fine, everything is great. You just watch it in movies that something like that happens, but when it actually happens in reality, you're in denial. You have to work towards it. You're just broken, you're shattered, but still you have to do what is needed. I think it was a process, and more than me, I was just a support system to Ravi. But I think for Ravi, it was the most difficult phase of his life. So I could see him break down, but still act upon, go from one building to other building, yeah, luckily, like he quoted, we never during that tenure. I mean, there are so many good-hearted people, in the world who are ready to help. Sometimes God put you in situation, just you like, it's a situation of, it's such a bad situation, but still you have people who are ready to help you. There was so many people, at least 20 to 30 people that we came across during this journey, who were ready to help us for blood transfusion, platelet transfusion. Especially there were few volunteers who helped us, like, donated platelet like 8-9 times. So when I question myself honestly, would I be able to do that? Might not be, but there's so many good-hearted people around who are ready to help, but still, what is going to happen, what's the end result. Being still hopeful and doing whatever necessary. I think there was one phase where every week we were in the hospital, being hopeful that next time it's not going to be this soon, we would have some gap. But I think one more thing that I would like to mention is that my father-in-law, especially, he was very bold. He was very, very bold. So he totally put his trust on Ravi, and he just listened to him, and he said, "I'm going to feel fine." I think that aspect is also something which is very important, that the patient is also confident and, really wants to fight against it. So I think that also gives a lot of strength for you to actually put those steps, towards whatever is the medical journey. So to cut it short and put it in one line, I think it is not something that, just came first day. I think we learned it through the journey. That impact still, travels with us. Whatever happened, we might not discuss on a daily basis with each other, because we sometimes we do not want to discuss it, but every day, that whole process, I think during that journey, at least me, I don't think I felt that, we were doing something like this, we were working this hard, because we really wanted him to, we honestly wanted him to get better. And, even though that it might not, you're still hopeful. The human in you is still alive, that, it'll say that, he might, we could be on that we could be those lucky people where, that miracle might happen.
Yeah.
So I think it was a journey. It taught us a lot of things subtly, and in the hard way as well. So yeah.
Sounds like an incredibly difficult journey. And I'm so grateful that you had the kindness of strangers, so many people who came and helped in these difficult times. You spoke about denial initially, because his health was also always very good, and suddenly this came. And then there would have been multiple emotions as you progressed into this role. So, would you like to share about some of your thoughts and feelings when you entered the role, and how have they evolved now? How have they shifted over the journey?
Okay, I did mention one important thing, because it was my father who initially got diagnosed, but eventually even my mother got diagnosed with cancer. So during that period only, a few months later. So it was in May 2019 we got to know about my father, and it was in Jan 2020 I got to know about my mother. The irony is my mother knew about it, but probably that's the reason why they say that parents are like, they are the most patient people under the sky. So it so happened that my mother knew about it for the entire 2019, but somewhere she felt that if I disclose it now, these two guys will have a major problem, because they're already managing with his father. So she has given it on herself. She was undergoing that pain. She was having breast cancer. She was probably in a second stage when she knew about it, but she didn't disclose it because she herself was in a lot of distress because of my dad's thing. And in Jan 2020, just because my dad was emotional and he conveyed that message that, what will happen to me, who will take care of me if you are not around, that's when she disclosed to me that, I'm under severe pain, and I think, I need to, consult a doctor. And that's when we consulted a doctor. And in Jan 2020, we got to know, on 26th is her birthday, and 27th of January, we got to know that she has a third stage breast cancer, which is again a very rare, so by then we were already in hospital. We knew that how did we got to manage, so we had to please look for a good consultant for her. And so she landed in another hospital because the doctor who was to treat was in another hospital, the best consultant. So then me and Shobha parted our ways. So I used to manage my father. She used to manage my mother. And at times when my mother is like, she used to undergo chemo, finish off chemo every weekend, then immediately gather herself and come to my father's hospital because she was like, I should be around. So if you ask me what changed me as a person during this time, so I've become a little sensitive. I've become very emotional. I disclose it or I express it at times. And the only person who sees that side very, very frequently is my wife, because I'm very vulnerable now. I cry at times. The moment I go I think that, no, I don't want to go to hospital, even if I'm sick. So that kind of aversion which I developed, not that I'm foolish. Yeah, I did get COVID last year and I got admitted in the hospital. That's a different thing. But I somehow feel, that part is still not healed. So what I have become as a person, my perspective changed towards life. So, it's a general husband-wife relationship. And if I am practical and if I say something, she gets a little, she herself has changed a lot. She has developed a lot of anxiety. She has developed a lot of this one for me, and she gets a little perturbed when I say that I'm not feeling well, or if I have a pain in the arm or something. She gets a little distress. She comes under distress and she gets a little, anxious. But if you ask me what has changed me, I have become very practical in life after seeing quite a lot of things in my parents and a lot of deaths during COVID time. What I realize is, you never know when you're going to die. So I am a person who's a very normal human being. I have anger, I have frustration, and within family, outside friends. If, I used to be that kind of a person. Agar wo baat nahi kar raha, to main kyun karna? Agar wo nahi kar raha hai, to main kyun karna? So all this is very trivial for me now. I think that in my mind, but my heart says like, how stupid you are. You've seen all these things. Why are you thinking so? So that internal correction happens within me, and then I go out as like, okay, wo nahi baat kar rahe, to mere ko kya ja raha hai, let me talk types. So things have changed. The perspective has changed. At the end of the day, now I'm fine. My parents have left a lot for me. They left just abruptly. Both of them. I lost both of them in 2020. They just left abruptly. Then what I realize is, whatever you struggle for, whatever you make, you don't know when you're going to disappear. But that doesn't mean that you will not think about future. You will not plan about future and all that. But at the end of the day, when I think, why am I doing all this? You never know tomorrow I'll be there or not. And then that's the kind of time when I feel very philosophical. I'm like, okay, why are we born in life? What do we do? All these questions crop up in my mind. So if you ask me how I have changed, I was already a pragmatic and practical person, but I have become more practical now, little sentimental and emotional about things. I know that when I see people around, trust me, I feel like, okay, this person I'm talking to maybe will not be alive for entire life, right? I might not see him at one point of time. Or if I am in a little joy and if I'm little happy, the first thought which comes to my mind is my parents. And then the second thought which comes to my mind is, okay, this happiness will not live for a long time, and you will have to again get into a sorrow zone wherein you might have to face something terrible. So that kind of thoughts go in my mind. But during this phase, people generally lose faith in God or spirituality or whatever it is. But I have kind of become very strong and probably it helped me, trusting in God or spirituality. I've got that bent of mind more, and now I am, all that trivial things and all that things are completely shutted down, and then I'm like, I'm a very practical person now, though I'm emotional and sentimental, very practical, and it has changed my perspective towards world. It's like, let's be kind, help anybody, how much ever possible. You never know. Even a small help might add a lot of difference in their life. Because during our time, during those 2 years, if somebody used to come for donating blood, it was like for us, he or she is like a god. Because what if somebody would have thought that mere ko kyun jana hai? Why should I go and donate a blood for him during the COVID time? You just can't believe there was a person who was a retired person around 56 years old. He used to donate platelets for my father during COVID time. And one of the times there was no transportation. He has actually walked around 10 kilometers from his home to Apollo Hospital he was literally drenched in his own sweat. And he came saying that I came to donate platelets to your father. So whenever I feel that why should I help help a person, the first person who comes into my mind is that guy. Like, okay, if he can come, why can't I help type of scenario. Not that I am some messiah going around helping people, but whenever somebody comes in front of me saying that mere ko bhook lag raha hai, thoda paise do, you become a kind of person wherein you're very emotional. In the family, if somebody needs a help, they have to go to hospital, I'll be first, because for me, it is very important. I feel that, okay, some person around them will give that strength. If they feel that strength also is enough for me that I'm doing some help. So if you ask me, this is the change. Luckily, if you say, that there are certain things God plans for you, it's always important if two people, like your partner, should also be having the same kind of thought process and frequency. So if you're lucky enough, if somebody is there in your life who also thinks on the same lines and who can correct you. So when you are like going on a negative side, she says, no, whatever they think, it's fine. I think you are what you are. So do what you feel like and do good. So probably God has helped me that way, getting her in my life who thinks like me and corrects my course of action when I go wrong.
It's incredibly lucky that you have each other.
Yeah.
And you had each other with similar values, similar thought process early into the marriage. It was just a few.
Yeah.
Not even.
In fact, I'm interrupting you. In fact, if you ask us, we had very little memories which were very joyful, because we both went through the same struggle any married guys go through. First year was like a lot of turmoil, ups and downs between us. In the family, we were trying to adjust and all. But second year, we were trying to settle down in 2018. And it's like when we were ready to take off of being a very happy and merry-go family. And then suddenly this happened. So this one way, kind of gave us a very big blow. I lost my parents, of course. But one way, it has laid a foundation for our relationship. Now we fight like any other common couple, we fight. But end of the day, we know that, we are there both for each other. So probably there's a plan for everyone's life, and there is a reason why things happen. So probably I think that way.
Yeah. So personally, for me, I think, I'm the eldest child in the family. And like I mentioned, I'm a very close-knitted family, and I have 3 uncles and 1 aunt. We lost all 3 uncles, unfortunately. So each of them in a different manner. So we are very close-knitted family. So I think this process of becoming a caregiver started then itself. So you you need not be there in the situation, but you know what is happening. So I think when it's all joyful, everything is fine. But when you lose one person, older, younger, anything, doesn't matter. When you lose one person, there's a whole impact on the entire family. So I've seen that happening in my side of the family. So I know what it feels like. Like he mentioned, yeah, there is a personality shift that naturally happens. So you're afraid, you're anxious for him. Suddenly you become very protective about him. So all that happened, and I let it happen to me. So because I didn't want to stop anything. Yeah, I mean, you always have the side effects of such things, right? And not just that, in our 2 years of marriage, we saw 3 deaths. My in-laws' death, both my in-laws' deaths, and my uncle's death, the youngest uncle, which was all of a sudden. So it definitely impacts you personally, uh, but you know that you just have to keep going. And Ravi has been magnanimous. Even though he is in pain, he's not gripping, but he's just ready to help anybody who's in need, be it my side or his side. He's always there to help. I mean, just yesterday, one of our distant relatives was getting admitted, so he was there in the hospital. He was trying to look after everything and give his best. I think that's the good side of it, that you just want to help the other being, so that and add some value, so that at least 1%, if they don't suffer what you suffered, or you make their life easier, at least by 1%, you just definitely contributed, right? So that's the kind of giving that you're very conscious about. Earlier, you might be very it might be a little casual, that things like this keep happening, how much will you contribute to society? But now, you definitely definitely hits that, maybe my this little help might impact somebody, might help somebody at least by 1%. So let's just do it. So that's the other side of the good side of it. The other side of it is, you go through your emotional journey. His emotional journey will always be there. So whenever he's feeling bad, he's low, I just don't tell him that it's okay. It's never okay for him. Losing parents is never okay. So it could be a curse or whatever you call it. He has to go through that journey, and only he knows the pain. I might try my best to make him feel better, but it can never be the same. So I mean, it's his loss, and that loss is always there. But what you try and be is, you're always ready to help, right? Whenever he's low. Earlier, that wasn't the situation. You would always think that he needs his space and all that. But suddenly it is an involuntary action, that suddenly you want to become his father, mother, everything, and just try to protect him. That automatically comes. And so I've been someone throughout my life who always thought that you need that emotional space. You're feeling bad, you're doing now it surprises me. I'm all the time, my eyes are always around him. What is he doing? Is he okay? Is he feeling well? So you want to play you want to put on the hats of his mom, dad, everything, and try to protect him. You might not do the fullest, but that's the kind of support you want to give each other. Like he said, we hadn't settled in our relationship, but when this happened, unknowingly, we just teamed up, and we just wanted to do what all could be done, I think our foundation of the relationship, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, happened then. We just thought, we should team up and do the best. So that is the emotional side of it. The other side of it, like I mentioned, we just want to be conscious and help wherever possible. It's not that we are donating everything, but you just want to be there as a person. So you don't want to take the unnecessary stress of what is happening, who is saying what. It keeps happening. You can never stop it. But the serious side to life now. You have seen it enough. So you just are being more sensitive and more conscious of being the human, trying to bring out the human in you as much as possible. So that is what I want to answer. That's how I want to answer to this question.
Sharing about that journey, it's almost sounds like a crash course in growing up and becoming more human, and everything that spirituality teaches us, everything that our religions or God, all of that teaches us. Death puts everything in perspective, and the way
absolutely.
that you've absorbed it and processed it and supported each other through it just is so mature. So Thank you so much for sharing this part of the journey. Shifting gears a little bit, both of you are working professionals. Both of you have been having a career, contributing at work as well. And at the same time, there were two caregiving responsibilities which suddenly came. So how did you manage your other responsibilities towards work, towards family members, or even towards yourself in this caregiving journey?
Okay, frankly speaking, 2 points. I'll not take much time. First thing is, as I said earlier, maybe things will fall in place, and God or superpower, whatever you call, he might probably help you. So during that period of time, we took a hit on our career, both of us, frankly speaking. So I had to change my job. I took an opportunity without thinking twice and picked up an opportunity in an organization wherein things were not so great, and I was hired there. But the flip side, organizations were very considerate. The organization where I joined, the new organization, they were very good. They understood my problem. They realized that, okay, this guy is in a bad shape. So they gave me all the levy and all that. But for Shobha, she also had to, though she was in TCS, she had to forgo a lot of things. You don't have to. It's a tough time wherein you can't focus much on work. So as a result, what happens? Your performance certainly gets impacted. So we were in a stage wherein we were trying our best so that we don't get into a performance improvement kind of a scenario. We were literally running on a tightrope. We ensured that we deliver, we do whatever. I used to work from hospital at times, and she used to work from hospital at times. She used to take calls in hospital corridors. But overall, it will impact because your judgment and your ability to think gets very low because you're already mentally exhausted with whatever you're doing, apart from getting exhausted physically. So we took a hit on our career, but we were lucky enough, as I say, whether people believe or not believe, I am not a person who believe that, I'm not an atheist, but at the same time, I don't say that I am so religious that I sit and do. I do all the things which I have to do, but I'm a very practical person. But what I felt is there's something which governs a human or controls a human's life, which will help you, if you are true to yourself, and if you thoroughly believe that, I need to do this very, very successfully, then things will fall in place. Some or the other supernatural power will help you. So for us, any normal person, we have heard a lot of people losing jobs, a lot of people losing or screwing up their careers. But if I look back now, I really think every day once that what must have saved us both. We didn't have even a single pay cut. Trust me, during that 2 years or 1 year we were going through, not even a single day. My organization was so considerate that at times I was on loss of pay, or they understood that, okay, this guy is going through a lot, so let us not deduct his salary. We had insurance falling in place. Shobha had insurance. Shobha had her insurance, which has protected me at that point of time. Because, when somebody is in hospital, the caregiver has to manage quite a lot of things. He has to manage himself. Most important in today's world is he has to manage finances. Managing finance is a nightmare, and trust me, we never had an issue. My father himself used to come and sit in front of me at times and say that, how are you managing? Do you want any support? But I was a kind of person, or we were like, no, we will try to manage it ourselves. So we somehow managed the entire process without even touching a single rupee or single pie from my father. Though he was like, he saw that stress in us, saying that, okay, you're going through a lot because of me. Tell me, I will help you, I'll support you. But I was like, no, we are fine, we will do it. So caregiver goes through a lot, not only managing as menial things like managing medicines, cooking for the day, unka दोनों का meals कैसे, क्या खाएंगे, क्या नहीं खाएंगे, because that is one more stress in life, when they are going through any cancer patient or any patient for that matter, you have to manage their diet. That is the biggest thing. You have to buy things, you have to buy vegetables, and it was COVID at that time. We had to manage everything, cook for them only certain things. Generally cancer patients are prone to infections, wash things quite a lot of times, keep everything clean around, change the bed sheets for them so that they don't fall sick because of that, taking them in vehicle very protectively so that they don't catch up with any other infection and all that. All this happens because you just don't think कि इतना मैं कर रहा हूँ, or you're tired, or what will happen. I don't know where you get the strength at that point of time. If I sometimes think if I was so religious and so good at what I did at that point of time, I think I should have been, an Ambani in setting up an industry and giving life to a lot of people. Even if if that willpower is there in our day-to-day life, probably you can build empires and kingdoms. But now if you ask me, can you do that thing again? I will okay, how did I do? That is a question which will be there in my mind. So in a nutshell, I don't know. Our careers took a hit, no doubt about it, which are falling in place now. We are able to focus on our careers. We thought that, okay, let's focus back on our careers. But yeah, it took a hit at that point of time. But touch wood, our organizations, we have to give credit to our organizations. Whether it's Tata Consultancy, or my company, which is Biologically Limited, they were very considerate enough. Even my earlier organization, where they've given me time because I couldn't relocate to Pune, Syngenta I was working with, they were considerate enough. All our managers, bosses, everyone was considerate enough. That's when probably God helps you. Like, he gets into all these humans and tells that you have to support them. There's no other go for you kind of scenario. Yeah, it was tough for us, but we somehow managed. All credit to people around us, our organizations and whatnot, our parents or whatever it is. How we are brought up and all that will also matter in such kind of scenarios.
True. Shobha,
I think, yeah, I think my side to the story is, so when you want to manage multiple things together, you can not always give equal priority to everything. So you just have to weigh and prioritize things and do. And at that point of time, I was newly promoted as a program manager. So I was the only female program manager in my account. So there was a need to actually prove something, do something, and I just started my journey then. And when this happened, I mean, see, you have two different tracks going on in your life, right? So you have your personal front, you have a professional front. So you just have to. There is always a compromise that you do on both sides. So for me, I just had to make sure that I just complete my activities, and I won't be able to take anything extra because I have my limitations now. Time. So earlier it was such that you had to extend. You would extend your work hours because you want to prove something, you want to do something. But here it was not this situation. You have a hard stop. So my priority then was just to finish my job, just to make sure nobody had anything to say about what I was doing. So it is a business, right? End of the day. So you have nice people around. I have supporting manager, I had supporting super boss, who are not just helping me wherever possible, but also giving me a lot of strength by talking now and then. Organizations have a lot of it now, that they have to emotionally support, talk to your people. So I think I utilized that as much as I could. And I was very clear in my mind that what was important at that particular time. So I needed to help him. He has a lot of medical knowledge because he always had aspired to become a doctor. Unfortunately, he couldn't. So he reads a lot about medicine. So my knowledge was not that much. So I was very clear on what my task was for him, that I would take care of the transfusion part, looking out for donors, looking out for volunteers. So you're in the hospital, you're talking to all the nurses, nursing staff, trying to get things done. Take my father-in-law for transfusion. So booking the transportation for all the volunteers, coordinating. So I mean, in a very in a funny way. So we were on top of on our toes, on right from Thursday evening. We used to plan, okay, who is the volunteer now whom we are going to ask, list down, talk to them, and keep them ready. And Friday would be the blood result, and Friday evening we would Friday morning was the schedule for him going through the test.
And Friday afternoon, we would get the report. So we are on toes and like, okay, this volunteer is ready, this volunteer is ready, this volunteer is ready. I'm going to come to the hospital at 5. You come, you bring father-in-law to the hospital at so and so time. So we will do this. So that was the contribution I was very clear about. So thanks to technology, a lot can happen using technology. Like you talk to them, you book them transportation, you talk to them, and I had a few team members who were ready to help. So you don't know actually for first in place, you don't know what is needed. So what is needed for you to do? Okay, transfusion. What is blood transfusion? How it has to be done? What is the procedure in the blood bank? You definitely, you won't believe, yesterday after 2 years I had gone to the same blood bank. So people recognize you, people talk to you. That's the network you build, fortunately or unfortunately. So you just have to, you go through it. You are in the spot, you have to go through what you go through. But there are people to help you. There is always, like you said, there is always a hit. But it's just important that at that point of time, what is important, you just have to let go of few things, because after all, it's a business, right? They would want you to do what needs to be done. So I think you just have to put that extra then, and try and manage. I was managing two different teams. One was on 24/7 support, and the other one was a development. So development, I knew morning I could handle, and 24/7, that team was such that anytime in the night there could be a issue, and I have to be there. Even though I'm not working on it, I have to be there for my team to support. So such kind of things happen. So I don't think Ravi slept properly during those two years completely. I don't think he is so alert. Even now, if I move from one side to other side on my bed, it's like, what happened? So that's the kind of impact it has. But I think somehow I was able to manage. Yeah, you don't get the same band, you don't get the same rating as you used to get earlier. So, but you kind of know that already, that this is going to happen. So yeah, so but the good part is, I didn't have that extra stress from my managers or super managers that you just have to do it, leave it. So they were kind of okay, because they saw me taking care of the deliverables and I was delivering everything. And that kind of trust I had built, and that is very important. Few companies and few managers are really nice. So who are ready to support you, because they know what's your credibility. So yeah, so such kind of thing. So you always have to be very conscious of what credibility you're building right from the beginning, so that when there is a need, they're ready to help. Even I'm ready to help my team members when they're what's their sincerity, what's their honesty towards your work. So that becomes a little easier. So everybody is human. It's just that that occasion comes, you just have to tap, and then they're ready to help in their own limitations. So it kind of prepares you, and you just have to be very conscious of what you're delivering. You just have to make sure you don't go out of focus completely. So you have to somehow maintain that and balance that. I think, again, I'm saying, for me at least, it was okay, because for him it was an emotional roller coaster. I think he managed it incredibly, and he had very good managers who understood it. I mean, he had just joined an organization, he hadn't built that credibility yet, but they knew what kind of work he would do whenever he was in office, the kind of focus that he had to put in, which is very difficult. For me, it would have been impossible. I wouldn't have been able to focus had I been in his position. So I think building credibility is very important, because whenever there is a need, they're always there to help you in their limitations.
It sounds like you're apart. There was a lot of prioritization, lot of balancing, but also a lot of efficiency in overall
Yeah.
life. So work is one part of life, but family comes first, and
Certainly.
everybody understands that. In that
Yeah.
Uh, we talked about help. You talked about how volunteers came and gave support. You talked about how bosses supported, everybody supported in their own way. Was asking for help difficult? What was your own personal journey about seeking help, asking help to manage the situation?
No, it was not difficult. It was not. It was difficult one way because we were concerned about the people who are helping also. Whether it's in my family, my father had a very big family. He had brothers. My cousins were there. Couple of my cousins came and donated blood quite a lot of time. They were also working along with us for finding donors and all that. Asking help during COVID time was really obligatory for us, because like you will first think in the mind that, okay, if I were in his place, would I do that, because risking my life? But you don't have any other choice. You will have to ask. So we seek help, as I will not repeat again, volunteers. We seek help from a couple of my own family members, at times, because you will be emotionally weak. So it feels good if you see somebody close relative of yours around you, like you can at least, discuss, or if somebody is there to listen what you're going through, that makes a lot of difference in life, because it was we both only managing quite a lot of time. So I had my uncles, my dad's brothers who used to come at times. I had my father-in-law, my brother-in-law used to come at times. My cousins used to come at times. But asking help was a little challenging at that point of time, because you're conscious. You will tell that, okay, is it fair on my part to ask somebody to come and donate blood? Would I do that if I were in his place? Because if you ask me, even today, if I see an ad of blood donation, or if I see a message of blood donation, I don't get up and go. I mean, I don't get that impulse to get up and go and donate blood. I don't get on that front for sure. But if I see somebody asking for a help on something, I would do that. But so there, I realized that there are some set of population who are like very, very concerned if somebody needs blood or somebody needs that kind of support. So help, it was not difficult for us. Probably we were pushed and pressed to ask for help at times. We did ask for help shamelessly, no doubt about that. We didn't bother, because if somebody said no, we understood, yeah, okay, I understand why he's saying no. We were not in a kind of anger or frustration that how come they can say no. It was quite understandable. Yeah, they would have said no. So that's the reason why, as she said, we used to have 10 options. We used to think that if there is a conversion of at least one or two in that 10 options, it would make a lot of things. Financially also, I seek help at fag end of the entire thing. When my dad was getting close to his last final days, I was broken financially. I exhausted my insurance, though Shobha had her insurance. We needed money for quite a lot of things. So I have seek support from my friends. I've seek support from my family side. My brother-in-law helped me once. So quite a lot of people helped me financially also.
Your grandma.
So
Grandma.
everyone, that's what I said. My family, everyone helped. My grandmother, everyone helped. My mother's side helped. And one thing which I learned from all this is, that you have to seek help. You can't win such situations alone. So what I learned is, you should never burn your bridges. You never know who will come and save you. That is something which I learned a lot. Even today, if I have not so great relationship with somebody, I will always think in my mind that, okay, what worse can happen? So let me not burn my bridge. Okay, let me be diplomatic, let me be political, or say hi, hello, but don't get into a situation wherein you completely ruin that relationship, because you never know when. World is a very small place, I've realized. So you never know who would seek help from you, and whom you will seek help from. So you never know when that scenario would come. So asking help is nothing wrong. What I would suggest for any caregiver is, if you don't ask, there's a proverb in Telugu, I mean, my mother tongue, even if you don't ask, your mother doesn't know what you need. So that is the kind of
When
thing.
you're
So
hungry.
if you don't ask, they will not help you. Maybe if you ask, they will certainly come and help you. Even the some of the people who helped me, I never thought or dreamt in my life that they would help me. So they did come and help me if I needed help. So asking help was not so challenging. It was obligatory, certainly, but we seeked help, no doubt about it. People helped us during that time. Even in that COVID time, we got help, frankly speaking.
Yeah, so I think help in different aspects. One is the medical help, one is the emotional help, one is the financial help. So I think the most important was the medical help, and we didn't shy away. We didn't shy away from asking for help in the medical front because that was the need of the hour. So we made sure that we asked for help because he had some network with some good doctors because who are his friends. So it kind of told us what's the next step, what's going to happen, because it was not just one person who's not well. There were two people who are not well in the family, my father-in-law and my mother-in-law. So we had to be ready that who is not going to keep well, whom do we give more attention. So such kind of a situation was there. One thing that I always used to pester him about is like, the situation around is bad, it's COVID time, and you don't really know what it is and how it's going to impact lives. So we were being very conscious that we don't put anybody else in trouble, like the emotional friend. If somebody was wanting to come home and talk and things like that, we were a little hesitant and more concerned for the other person as to we just wanted to be sure that the rest are also fine, because you might not talk to somebody in the family for almost a year, but you're really concerned. You don't want anything wrong to happen to them. So more than the emotional front, I think we didn't shy away to ask for any medical help. Financial, luckily, my father-in-law himself was doing quite well, touch wood. Both of us were working and we were kind of decent position. So in the insurance, I think it's a great help. So every time, you won't believe, every time there were times when every week that we went, it was a minimum of 30,000. 30,000 just for a couple of hours, and you don't know from where money is going. You can't say anything because that's your need. That's the fuel. So you just have to take it. So we didn't want to. We had somehow some faith that we'll be able to pull it out. We'll be able to pull it out. That's something that we always and luckily both of us never ever wanted to compromise on that front, that we wanted to do the best whatever is possible. And we knew that we will be able to make up this money sometime in life, because luckily we had our jobs and we were kind of doing decently well. So financially, I think somehow from somewhere, like he said, we never felt low that this is happening to us, we are running around hospitals, or we were also gathering courage from other co-patients in the hospital, to be honest, that this person is going through this, he's traveling from some other city and trying to get it done. He or she is not financially that strong, so at least we are a little in a better position. So such kind of solace, I think we were trying to give ourselves, because that was the need of our. So
Sorry, no, it's working. Sorry,
yeah,
there's a call. Sorry.
So we were very clear that only if you ask for help, it's going to work. So we never shied away asking help from volunteers, asking help from the nursing staff in the hospital. Never shied away from asking help from his friends who are doctors from other cities. We called them in odd hours. We knew we had that guilt that we're calling them in odd hours, but we knew that this information might be really helpful to my father-in-law or mother-in-law. So we knew that it's all worth asking for that help, and the little disturbance that we're creating. So we took it kind of granted that it's okay because he needed it. So yeah, that's about it.
Very practical. very, very practical approach to help. Ask for help. It's okay if others do not provide it. And also don't burn the bridges, because you never know. These kind of situations just teach us how we are all connected and we need to be there for each other. Thank you. We are coming towards the close of the conversation.
Yeah.
I have a couple of last questions, different ones for each of you. So one of the questions is, how do you take care of yourself, and how did you manage self-care in the situation? Maybe Ravi, if you could take that, and Shobha, if you could tell us about any joyful moment or anecdote. I know it was very, very challenging, but any joyful, any fun, anything that warms your heart, even now that you think about it, that kind of an anecdote in this whole journey.
Yeah. Frankly speaking, I ruined my health in those 2 years. I didn't take care much of myself, because after I lost both of them, after I lost both of them, I realized that I was bad on my vitamin levels. I developed cholesterol, etc., etc. I have a very bad sleeping pattern now. As she said, I used to sleep with my father in the hospital. Luckily, my mother was strong, even though one thing I learned from all this journey is women are very strong. That is one thing I seriously believed always, because I was brought up by a person who was, I'm the only kid, but I was brought up by my parents in such a way that there's no differentiation kind of a thing in my house. Even my dad used to get into the kitchen and do everything. That's how I was brought up, because both were working parents. So what I learned from that journey was women are very strong. I wanted to mention that because I never saw any human who can be as strong as a woman, because my mother was in severe pain for the entire year, and she didn't even disclose, just because she didn't want to trouble us both, because we were already working with my father, and she didn't want to, she didn't bother about her health for that matter. So, or any woman, even it's probably I sometimes think, I'm a person who think very wild. If at times I change my role, and I think if I were in Shobha's shoes, maybe I would have said that, okay, enough, I got married recently, why should I help you? Let me go. You never know. I can see such stories around in my life. I know my friends whose partners have left them just because they couldn't take all the toll which they are going through in their personal life. So I ruined my health. How did I care myself? I used to think only one thing every day, that if I fall, that way also I'm very lucky. During the peak COVID time, we were in hospital and we never were contacted even once with COVID. We were in the cancer wing. We used to go left, right, center in all the elevators, public elevators. We used to roam around in the cafeterias of the hospital, though we were taking basic precautions of, sanitizing hands, putting a mask and all that. But staying in a hospital during that time is very, very dangerous. But during that peak time for 1.5 years, we were never down with COVID. But we were stuck with COVID when everything was over and we were like normal, back to normal. So we were lucky that way also. I used to think, imagine if me or her or if I was down with COVID at that point of time, it was very tough. So I didn't take care of myself much emotionally. I'm a person who I was basically, my friends used to tell me that I was always had a philosophical bent of mind. And, my brought up, the kind of discussions I used to have with my mother, or the kind of discussions I used to have with my friends, or probably spirituality or whatever you say, I was down emotionally, but mentally I was taking care of myself, if not physically. I used to think every day that the first thing which a caregiver thinks along with the patient is, why me in such scenario? Why not somebody else? Why is that it's only me? That's what I tell Shobha today also. Any caregiver, if for example, her aunt got admitted yesterday in hospital 1 week back, it's like just a couple, they don't have kids, wife and husband, aged. Her husband is in absolute, confusion. Our uncle is in absolute confusion, because the first thing which comes to his mind is, the first thing he told me is, We were doing all happy. Why is it that it should happen to us like this now? So that's the first question anyone will have. The patient will have, obviously, because he's going through ailment. The caregiver will also have कि अरे दुनिया में इतने सारे लोग हैं, मेरे को भी क्यों ऐसा हुआ है? If somebody says it, I didn't think like that, it's false. It's hypocrisy, because everyone will think like that. When I was in hospital, I always used to think that, okay, why me? Why everyone else around is happy? Why it's only me? But if you're emotionally and mentally brought up strong, and if you believe in spirituality or something which you believe in, it's not God or whatever it is, I took care of my mental health very well. I used to cry out loud if I had to cry, because that is one way you can balance yourself. Even today, I cry out. I'm shameless, I'll tell. I cry at times very loud, very badly, because you're helpless. You can't control certain things in life, loss of your close ones, or certain situations wherein you have money, you have good hospitals, you have good doctors, but a disease which can't be cured is the worst thing which can happen to one person. But to the patient, to the family members, if something can be cured or not cured, at least can be done something so that he can have an extension of life, is like blessing for me. But if something doctor says that, okay, this is something which I can't do anything about, he or she will have to suffer and see the end. Because I saw my father dying in front of me in the ICU. I saw his line going flat on the ECG, because his heart was doing good, but because of his low immunity, his kidneys got affected, and they literally had to pull out the plug for him to die. That is what you see. As she said, you only see that in movies in your entire life, all the Bollywood or your own movies, seeing that, okay, somebody dying in front and people crying. But if you go through that, it's difficult. But I can only give one advice, people or any caregiver, is, just have to trust in whatever you trust: God, spirituality, your parents, your mother, your wife or sister. If you have siblings, you should stay strong. Emotionally, you can stay strong. I could stay strong because I read a lot of books that helped me a lot. I read the book by Viktor Frankl about,
Search for meaning.
correct. So that, if you ask me, I anyone who I meet, I'll ask them or suggest them to read that book, because I'm a big fan of Viktor Frankl. I read that book during my young age, during my degree or post graduation, and when I look back and think about that book and Viktor Frankl, I think rest of all what we are going through in life is nothing. And after my loss also, when I went back to normal life, I have heard many stories around me who had seen very pathetic life those 2 years because of COVID. People couldn't see their own parents, own wife, own spouse, because they were stuck with COVID, and the bodies were just numbers. The remainings were just numbers. You lost somebody in your family. He's 35 or 36 number. You don't get to see him or her, and you just see their cremation in front of you. So I have heard such stories as well. So I would just say, apart from physical, it's important to have your mental health. My physical health got screwed up, but my mentally I stayed strong because I used to cry out. People say you shouldn't cry out, but I cry out very loudly. I don't feel shy crying out loudly, because once you cry out loudly, after that, your mind tells you that you're balanced, and it tells you what are positives, negatives, how you have to see your life. All that stuff falls in place if you cry out loudly in any kind of situation. That is what I have learned. That's what I've learned.
Thank you for sharing that.
So you asked me for a joyful moment. I've been taking those 2 minutes to actually recall and think of what joyful moment we had.
For us, I'll add one point. For us, joyful moment was 1 week we are not in hospital and my dad's counts were up. We will stay in home for that weekend, watch a movie. It was the biggest joyful moment for us.
Yeah, just adding to that. I would say joyful. I think my father-in-law especially has been a very sportive man. So even though he was going through that pain, he always wanted to just be normal. He was the first one who was to get up in the morning in the entire house, do his chores of puja, taking bath, everything, and he's ready. So you don't really feel when the patient himself is trying to be normal. So you draw and absorb that energy or that inspiration from there. So I can't think of any joyful moment in particular, but I think he was trying to put us in humor. That was his nature. He was very, and he had this hobby of poetry. So in Telugu, so he was trying to be creative in those times as well, because he never, other than the hospital stay, it never fell to us. None of us, whoever knew us, always used to tell that it never occurs to us that he's actually going through such a sorry, excuse me, such a big trauma or such a big disease. I think that's a blessing in this. That's actually a blessing when you see him trying to be normal and trying to keep up that humor. You actually you actually your anxiety levels fall down a little bit, and you try to take that breathing space. I think that was the thing. When you see him trying to be normal, you actually want to contribute and make him feel normal and make everything feel normal around, because when again the Friday hits, you're back to your task. I think that helplessness is always there. But when at least things are a little better than that worst situation, you just breathe, take that breathing space, and try to be normal. Like he said, whenever his counts were better, it was a celebration. It was a call for celebration. We used to watch movie together at home. Ravi is a very good cook, so he used to cook something for his father. My father-in-law is a foodie, so we used to discuss. I'm a foodie, so we both used to discuss about that. I want to eat this, I want to eat that. How do you make this? So such kind of trying to be normal was actually trying to be joyful in those moments.
That's good.
And sounds like your father-in-law, with all his strength, with all his courage, gave care back to you.
Exactly.
Kind.
I think you put it really well. So yes, totally agree. 100% true.
Ravi and Shobha, thank you so very much. It was my pleasure. It was my privilege, rather, to be part of this conversation. I have learned so much personally, and I know that it's not easy to go through this journey and then talk about it, and also agree to have it as a recording for others to view. But there are many caregivers out there who need some inspiration, who need to know that this is something that everybody goes through. And I'm sure that whoever watches this recording will be inspired and will derive strength and courage. So thank you so much for
Thank you so much.
time.
Thank you.
Very much.
I would thank everyone. I mean, I really appreciate Bhavna for doing all this, and all of you. I mean, you, Disha, everyone in the team, you're doing a fabulous job. That's the reason why I said that I want to do something from my end for this particular cause.
Yeah, I just want to add to that there are a lot of people who are suffering, right? So we had our own classes where we had people supporting like that, but not everybody is so lucky. So it's just that people have to just stay, not lose hope. It's a very it's easy to say, it's easy for us to say, but the person who's going through that only knows what it is. So earlier, your perspective changes when you're into such a situation. So it's just that one has to be really strong and give the best, because and not think of what is going to happen, but that moment whatever you contribute is really important, because you don't know what's going to happen next. But if you're able to help, then that's really important. And for that person, whoever is supporting the patient, it is very important for the friends and family to just make sure you call and say, are you okay, we are there for you. These two words are really important, make a lot of difference. I think it's a call to the entire family and friends also, to just make sure, give that small push, that it's okay, you'll be able to do, it's okay, you'll be able to do, and you gain strength only from there. So be it spirituality and people around, because when you're helpless, you just look out for help and for someone to say it's okay, and you have to take it. One shouldn't shy away from sharing it from family and friends, that this is what is happening with me. One should always be vocal about it. It might be difficult, but it is a must. It is a need that the caregiver should be vocal about it and try to take help from others. So that is very important, and you only evolve to be a stronger person trying to help somebody else and make that impact. So it is important to be expressive about how you're feeling.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that it will reach many, many other caregivers, and they'll seek inspiration from your words.